Okay, I believe we are live. Right now, video. All right, we'll chant. Let's see which song we're going to pick tonight. One of my favorite songs, Oh Hey Vaishnava Kakura. All right, so, okay, let me get the guitar. So, for those of you who are attending our classes, let's say tomorrow we're going to give the class, but we'll be giving it from Sacramento, California, by Krishna's grace. Hopefully we'll arrive in time to give the class from Sacramento. Same time, same station. Uwe Vaishnava Thakur Yara Sadhare Se Guruna Diya Pada Jaya Shoda Heya Maya Tomara Charana Jaya Vegadami Dusha Sori Jaya Muna Deya Jaya Sasanga Deho He Amare Oshachi Sangerate Ekaki Amara Oi Bo Ninam Sankirtane Tumi Kripa Kori Chakta Bindu Diha Deo Krishna Namadane Krishna Jai Tumara Krishna Pite Paro Anachak Radhiya Amito Kandala Krishna Krishna Bole Daida Jai Ohe Vaishnava Thakur Yarazadare Say Kahuna Gauri Diya Pada Jaya Shoda Heya Maya Domara Vishnu Pataya Krishna Prasaya Bhutalaya Chute Bhakti Vedanta Samani Dinamine Namaste Advati Devi Charity, Viseshashan Yuvani, Shachani Satarane, Jaya Shri Krishna Chaitanya, Prabhupada Nanda, Sitweta, Gadana Jiva Sadi, Gormata Vrinda, Hare Krishna, Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Hare Krishna, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Prabhupada, Prabhupada, Jaya, Prabhupada, Jaya, Prabhupada, 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 Haribo, Haribo, Holy Jai, Haribo, Haribo, Jai Om Vishnu Pada. Paramahansa Paramahansa Ostapeta Sadashi Shimad, Divine Grace. Abhaya Chandananda Bhaktivedanta Goswami, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. ISKCON, Founder Acharya, Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nandakoti Vaishnava Vrinda Ki Jai. Namacharya Srila Vedas Thakur Ki Jai. Prem Se Go Shri Krishna, Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sidvaita Gadadha, Shivasti Gaur Bhaktavan Ki Jai. Shri Shri Radhakrishna Gopi Gopatana Shyam Kunda Radhakunda Giri Govardhan Ki Jai. Vrindavan Ki Jai, Mithunam Ki Jai. Jagannath Swami Ki Jai, Yamunamai Ki Jai, Srimati Tulasi Devi Ki Jai, Bhakta Vrinda Ki Jai, Gaur Premananda Haribol. All glories to the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories the assembled devotees. All glories to Shri Guru and Gauranga Srila Prabhupada Ki Jai. Nama Om Vishnu Padaya Krishna Prastaya Bhutale Srimati Bhaktivedanta Swamini Tinamani Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Pracharine Nivashesha Shunyavati Paschacha Deshatarni Omagana Timadandasha Gananjana Shalakaya Chakshur Meditam Yena Tasmai Shri Gurave. I offer my respectful obeisances unto the lotus feet of my spiritual master, His Divine Grace, A.C. Bhaktivedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada, who so kindly opened my eyes with the torchlight of knowledge while I was blinded in the darkness of ignorance. So it's good to see everybody again. And as I mentioned, tomorrow night we're going to be doing this class from Sacramento, California, where it's really cold. Not really. It's where they're having a heat wave and a water wave. Not like North Carolina, which is basically the closest thing to heaven you can get on this planet. So, anyway, apart from that advertisement about North Carolina, We're going to continue tonight to talk about Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's discussions with Ramananda Roy. And the discussions tonight will not specifically revolve around the intimate aspects of Radha and Krishna's pastimes, but upon more down-to-earth subject matters that we can basically understand, we can be absorbed in, and you won't be a sahaja by understanding these things. Okay, on that happy note, we'll continue with our reading of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavrinda Jaya Jaya Sri Caitanya Jaya Nityananda Jaya Dvaita Chandra Jaya Gaur Bhaktavrinda. Okay. Beginning from text 247 of the 8th chapter of the Madhya Lila of the Sri Caitanya Charitamrta. Okay. Sambatire Majeji Berako Zapati Gane Radha Krishna Prema Yandra Sevada Kane. All right. Whoops. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, of the many capitalists who possess great riches, who is the topmost? And Ramananda Roy replied, he who is richest in love for Radha and Krishna is the greatest capitalist. And Prabhupada explains that everyone in this material world is attempting to acquire riches to satisfy the senses. Actually, no one cares for anything other than acquiring material possessions and maintaining them. The wealthy are generally accepted as the most important personalities in this material world. But when we compare a material man of wealth to one wealthy in devotional service to Radha and Krishna, the latter is found to be the greatest capitalist. According to Srimad Bhagavatam, 10th Canto, 39th chapter, text 2. Kim malavyam bhagavati prasane shri niketane Tatapi tatpara rajana hi vanchanti kinchana. What is difficult for the devotees of Lord Krishna, who is the shelter of the goddess of fortune? Although such devotees can obtain anything, O king, they do not desire anything. So one thing we should understand is that the goddess of fortune is always with Krishna Vishnu. So if you have Vishnu, you have fortune, Lakshmi, not necessarily money, Lakshmi, but fortune, good fortune. People think money is everything. Even some people joke that money isn't everything for whatever second, sure far behind. Anyway, no, money is not everything, but the reason people want money is for the following purpose. Dharma, artha, kama, moksha. That when you have money, so dharma, of course, means being religious, so you get money. Artha means getting money or wealth, and then kama, enjoy yourself, and then after that you just become frustrated. Anyway, so those who don't have Krishna, or any of his various incarnations, who think they have Lakshmi, don't have Lakshmi, they have Maya, Lakshmi, or Durga. And Durga has a trident, and that trident indicates the threefold miseries. Adhyatmic, adibodhic, and adidharmic, miseries from the body and mind, miseries from the other living entities, and miseries from the material energy in general. So a devotee of Krishna is truly fortunate, even if they appear to be poverty-stricken, even if they appear to be diseased, even if they appear to have no reputation. even if they appear to be in a lower family. They have real wealth because they're happy. Because what is the purpose of wealth? What is the purpose of opulence? What is the purpose of sense gratification? If you really drill down, the purpose is to be happy. And those who make their goal of life acquiring more and more, abhidham jnanam tena jnanam nichvayana kamarupena konteya dushprena lenacha. They are never satisfied, and their desires are burning like fire, just burning them up. Okay. Dukkha majje kona dukkha haya guru tara Krishna bhakta viraha vina dukkha nahi deki. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked of all kinds of distress, what is the most painful? And this is very interesting. Sri Ramananda Roy replied, apart from separation from the devotee of Krishna, I know of no unbearable happiness. It's so important to always associate with the devotees of Krishna, to live with the devotees of Krishna, whether one is in household life or a brahmachari or a sannyas, whatever, they should always aspire to have the association of the devotees of Krishna. Fortunately, in my life, Srila Prabhupada has blessed me that throughout my whole life, for the last 50 years, I've always had the association of the devotees, never been separated. So, Prabhupada explains that concerning this, the Lord states in the Vedic literature, Vamana Raja Dukharta Kutumba Sakta Manasa Satsanga Rahito Marcho Vidaseva Parichuttaha. A person who does not worship me, who is unduly attached to family. Phew, it's interesting. Unduly attached to family. And who does not stick to devotional service must be considered a most unhappy person. Similarly, one who does not associate with Vaishnavas or does not render service to his superior is also a most unhappy person. There's the following statement in the Brihad Bhagavatamrita 1.5.54. Svajivanadikam prarjam Shri Vishnu Jana Sangataha Vichedena Shanam Chatrana Sukham Sham Lavamahe. Out of all kinds of desirable things experienced in the life of a living entity, association with the devotees of the Lord is the greatest. When we are separated from a devotee, even for a moment, we cannot enjoy happiness. So wherever I go with my travels, I'm always with the devotees. And even if for some night I have to spend a night somewhere else, it's just one night max. For some reason, if I have to visit people who are not Krishna conscious, it's one night max. Max, max, max. Max means maximum, not more than that. Mukta Madhya Kon Jiva Mukta Karimani Krishna Prema Yanrase Mukta Shivomani. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu then inquired, out of all liberated persons, who should be accepted as the greatest? Ramananda Roy replied, he who has love for Krishna has attained the topmost liberation. In Srimad Bhagavatam 6th Canto, 14th chapter, text 5, it is said, Muktanam Apisrihanam Narayana Paraya Sadurlabha Prashantatma Kaltishvapi Mahamune. O great sage of the many millions of liberated persons and of millions who have attained perfection, he who is a devotee of Lord Narayan is very, very rare. Indeed, he is the most perfect and peaceful person. Gana Madhya Konagana Jivera Nija Dharma Radha Krishnera Prema Keli Ye Tera Marma. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu next, as Ramananda Roy. Among many songs, which song is to be considered the actual religion of the living entity? Ramananda Roy replied, that song describing the loving affairs of Sri Radha and Krishna is superior to all other songs. Stated in the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-36. Anugrahaya bhakanam manusham dehamastitaha vasate tadarshi kridaya sukva tatvaro bhavet. Lord Krishna descends apparently as a human being, and he exhibits his transcendental pastimes in Vrindavan, so the conditioned soul may be attracted to hearing his transcendental activities. Non-devotees are strictly prohibited from participating in songs celebrating the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna. Unless one is a devotee, it is very dangerous to hear the songs about the pastimes of Radha and Krishna that were written by Jayadeva Goswami, Chandidas, and other exalted devotees. Lord Shiva drank an ocean of poison, but one should not imitate this. One must first become a pure devotee of Lord Krishna. Only then can one enjoy hearing the songs of Jayadeva and relish transcendental bliss. If one simply imitates the activities of Lord Shiva and drinks poison, one will certainly meet with death. The talks between Lord Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy are meant for advanced devotees. Only those who are on the mundane platform who study these talks in order to put forward some thesis for a PhD will not be able to understand them. Instead, these conversations, will have a poisonous effect. Oh my God, how is that possible? Let me explain why they will have a poisonous effect. Because if one considers Lord Chaitanya, Ramananda Roy, the pastimes of Radha and Krishna to be material, that is offensive. And if one is offensive, it poisons one's spiritual life. Yes, that's one point. Secondly, if one hears about the intimate exchanges of Radha and Krishna, it may awaken, if one's not on a high platform, it may awaken the lust in one's heart. Because externally, there's many similarities to what one may perceive or experience in this material world and the relationship between men and women. There's many similarities. I mean, there's kissing and other things like that. And when one hears about these things, if one is not transcendentally situated, one will have his lust or her lust stimulated. And that will be poisonous, because when your lust is stimulated, you are in the mood of passion and ignorance. That's a fact. So it's very, very dangerous if one is not on the right platform or hearing from the right personality. So this is the reason why these conversations may have a poisonous effect. First of all, the offenses, and also the material projection and the stimulation of one's material desires. If one is on the transcendental platform, there's no question of material desires being stimulated. But even if one is on the platform of Baba, which is a very advanced stage, I know very few people on the platform of Baba. If one is not careful, one's material desires may be stimulated just by a simple little thing. And we're not just talking about lust or relationship between men and women. There's like Bharat Maharaj, a great devotee. He was the king. And he renounced everything because he was completely disinterested in his kingdom and all the opulence contained in the kingdom, and went to the forest to meditate. And he wasn't that careful. He became materially attached to a baby deer. and it stimulated, let's not say a gross desire, but the concept that I am the protector of this living entity. I am the doer, like that. This is very subtle stuff where one thinks one is the protector, the doer, the Ishvara. What were we talking about this morning? Ishvaraham aham bogi siroham balavam sukhi. The consciousness of someone who is immersed in material energy. I am the controller. I'm perfect, powerful, happy. I'm controlling this. I'm protecting this deer. And so he was so much immersed in protecting the deer. Nothing wrong with protecting a deer. That's fine. But it was the consciousness he had while he was protecting the deer, thinking he was the savior. In other words, that upadi or designation, I am the savior of the deer. Not understanding that he was simply the instrument of Krishna for helping that little baby deer, which is not a problem. If you understand you're the instrument for Krishna, then you can help a little baby deer. But if you think you're the doer, boom! So he thought he was the doer, became very proud. How will this deer live without me? This deer is thinking of me 24 hours a day. I'm thinking of the deer 24 hours a day. Oh dear, feeling your separation, I'm considering a moment to be like 12 years or more. Tears are flowing from my eyes like torrents of rain in your absence, little baby deer. And so he was looking for the deer, and he left his body feeling separation from the deer, thinking himself the doer. And as a result, he became a deer. Not a deer person, but a deer. And as a deer, he was pretty renounced. He didn't want to hang out with the other deer. He hung out with the sages. And in the next life, he became Jad Bharat, refused to have any sort of social interaction because he was scared of falling down again. So one has to be really careful. Okay. Then Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu asked, out of all auspicious and beneficial activities, which is the best for the living entity? The only auspicious activity is association with the devotees of Krishna. Haribol! According to Srimad Bhagavatam 11.2.30, Ata atyantikam kshemam prichamo bhagavaton nagaha samsaraismin shanardopi satsanga sevadirnam. We are asking you to tell us what is the most perfect welfare activity. I think that in this material world, association with devotees, even if it be for a moment, is the greatest treasure house for mankind. Wow. Kanhara smarana jiva karibe anuskshana Krishna namaguna lila pradana smarana. Sri Caitanya Mahaprabhu asked, what should all living entities constantly remember? And Ramananda Roy replied, the chief objects of remembrance are always the Lord's holy name, qualities, and pastimes. Srimad Bhagavatam 2.2.36 states, Tasmat Rajan Hari Sarvatra Sarvada Shrutavya Kirtavyascha Martavyo Bhagavan Vinam. Sukadeva Goswami concluded the business of the living entity is to always remember the Supreme Personality of God in every circumstance. The Lord should be heard about, glorified, and remembered by all human beings. And of course, the first regulated principle is to always remember Krishna. The second is to never forget Krishna. And all the other regulated principles are subservient or meant to assist in those two regulated principles. Jayamadjay Jivera Artgavya Konjana Radha Krishna Parambhuja Jana Pradana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu further inquired, are there many types of meditation which is required for all living entities? Sri Ramananda Roy replied, the chief duty of every living entity is to meditate upon the lotus feet of Radha and Krishna. Srimad Bhagavatam 1, 2, 14 states, Tasmadagena Manasa Bhagavan Sattvatam Vataki Shrutavya Kirtitavyascha Dhyaya Pujascha Nichara. Sutta Goswami replied to the sages headed by Shonaka, everyone should very attentively listen to the pastimes of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. One should glorify his activities and meditate upon him regularly. Sarvachachi Jivera Kartavya Kahan Rasa Rajabhumi Vrindavana Yahan Lila Rasa. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, where should the living entity live, abandoning all other places? Ramananda Roy replied, he should live in the holy place known as Vrindavana, or Brajabhumi, where the Lord performed his rasa dance. According to Srimad Bhagavatam 10:47-61, Asamaho Charana Renu Jushamaham Sham Vrindavane Kim Api Gulyam Gulma Lotol Shadinam Ya Dustaj Dusjajam Swajanam Marya Patam Chahitva Vejur Makunda Padavim Shutibir Vimvrityam. Uddhava said, let me become one of Vrindavana's herbs and plants that are trampled by the gopis, who gave up all connection with family and friends and decided to worship the lotus feet of Mukunda. Those lotus feet are sought by all great saintly persons, expert in the study of Vedic literature. Wow. Shravana Madhya Jivera Kon Shrestha Shravana Radha Krishna Prema Keli Karna Rasayana. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, out of all topics people listen to, which is best for all living entities? Ramananda Roy replied, hearing about the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna is most pleasing to the ear. According to the Srimad Bhagavatam 10:33-39, Prakriditam Raja Vadubiridam Javishno Shradanvito Shrunuyarata Varnayadya Bhaktim Varam Bhagavati Pratilapya Kamam Ridrogamash Yachirena Diraha. He who faithfully hears about the dealings between Lord Krishna and the gopis in the rasa dance, and he who describes these activities attain to the perfectional stage of devotional service and simultaneously lose material lusty desires. A liberated person, he who hears about the loving affairs of Radha and Krishna, is not inclined to have lusty desires. One mundane rogue once said that when the Vaishnavas chant the name Radha, Radha, he simply remembers a barber's wife named Radha. So that's really the point. That if we're really not on a high platform of devotional service, when we hear about the exchanges between Radha and Krishna, we'll remember some mundane Radha or mundane Krishna if you happen to be a lady. This is a practical example. Unless one is liberated, he should not try to hear about the loving affairs between Radha and Krishna. If one is not liberated, listens to relation of the rasa dance, he may remember his own mundane activities and illicit connections with some woman whose name may also be Radha. Of course, you see in many Bollywood films, the man will say to the woman, "You're my Radha," and the woman will say, "You're my Krishna." Yuck! In the conditioned stage, one should not even try to remember such things. By practicing the regulative principles, one should rise to the platform of spontaneous attraction for Krishna. Then and only then should one hear about Radha Krishna Lila. Although these affairs may be very pleasing to both the conditioned and liberated souls, the conditioned souls should not try to hear them. The talks between Ramananda Roy and Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu are conducted on the platform of liberation. So you may ask, why are we reading about these things, or why have we read about these things previously in this chapter? Well, we've actually couched our reading or the words with elaborate explanations, both by Srila Prabhupada and, of course, by myself, so that one would not get confused thinking or feeling that the pastimes of Radha and Krishna are mundane. Upasya Madhya Kon Upasya Pradana Shrestha Upasya Yugala Radha Krishna Nama. Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked, among all worshipable objects, which is the chief? Ramananda Roy replied, the chief worshipable object is the holy name of Radha and Krishna. The Hare Krishna mantra, according to the Srimad Bhagavatam 6.3.22, Itevan eva lokesmen pumsam dharma parasmitaha bhakti yogo bhagavati tannama grahanadivihi. In this material world, the living entity's only business is to accept the path of bhakti yoga and chant the holy name of the Lord. Jai. Mukti Bhukti Bancheye Kandunharagati Stavara Deha Deva Deha Yaiche Avastiti. And what is the destination of those who desire liberation and those who desire sense gratification? Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu asked. Ramananda Roy replied, those who attempt to merge into the existence of the Supreme Lord will have to accept bodies like that of trees, or those of trees. And those who are overly inclined towards sense gratification will attain the bodies of demigods if they have good karma. Only if they have good karma. They're overly inclined towards sense gratification, and they don't have good karma, they will attain the bodies of pigs, puercos. That's Spanish for pigs. Los puercos. Okay. You may want to be a pig because then you can enjoy like anything. As long as you're not in some farm where they're going to kill you. Those who desire liberation by merging into the existence of God do not desire sense gratification within this material world. On the other hand, they have no information about serving the lotus feet of the Lord. Consequently, they are doomed to stand like trees for many thousands of years. Although trees are living entities, they are non-moving. The liberated soul who merges into the existence of the Lord is no better than the trees. Trees also stand in the Lord's existence because material energy and the Lord's energy are the same. Similarly, the Brahman effulgence is also the energy of the Supreme Lord. It is the same whether one remains in the Brahman effulgence or in the material energy, because in neither is there spiritual activity. Better situated are those who desire sense grad and promotion to the heavenly planets. Such people want to enjoy themselves like denizens of heaven in the gardens of paradise. Back to the garden. They are at least they at least retain their individuality in order to enjoy life. But the impersonalists who try to lose their individuality also lose both material and spiritual pleasure. The last destination of the Buddhist philosophers is to become just like a stone which is immovable and has neither material nor spiritual activity. As far as the hard-working karmis are concerned, Srimad Bhagavatam states 11.10.23, Vishveha devata yagnai svarlokam yati yatnikaha bhunjitta devavattatra bhogan divyan jarjatan. After performing various sacrificial rituals for elevation to the heavenly planets, the karmis go there and enjoy themselves with the demigods to the extent that they have obtained the results of pious activities. Ooh. Doesn't sound attractive. Compared to Krishna's lotus feet, there is nothing in this world is so sweet as Krishna's lotus feet. So the comparison here to those who are of those who merge into the Brahman effulgence of the Lord with trees is very appropriate, because the trees are standing unconscious for thousands of years, no activities. Practically speaking, their consciousness is nil. I mean, they may have a little bit, but practically speaking, nil, because people are copying their initials in them. So and so loves so and they don't complain about it. They go through winter and spring and summer and fall, again and again. Fall, of course, is fall, winter, spring, summer, fall. Yeah, that's right. So they go through all the different seasons and they don't complain about it, and they're able to tolerate it in the same way. Those who enter into the Purana filters, they just stay there and with no consciousness at all. It's useless. And Prabhupada said it's better to go to the heavenly planets and enjoy, but I say it is better to go to Krishna Loka. But the problem with going to the heavenly planets and enjoying, and there is enjoyment there. You live for such a long time. Everyone there smells nice. The mangoes are as big as they are, as a whole town. And there's no pits. There's no skin. There's rivers of mango juice. No crying babies. No old people. But the problem is, Shanai Punya Marcha Lokam Vishanti. When your good karma runs out, that's it, baby. You're out of there. And that's what we're going to hear. In the Bhagavad Gita, the 9th chapter, text 20 to 21, Lord Krishna states, Trivijumam Somapa Putapapa Yadhyayishva Swargatim Pratayante Te Punyam Asadya Surendra Lokam Ashnanti Vidyan Divideva Bogan Te Tambutwa Swagalokam Vishalam Shane Punye Marcha Vilokam Vishanti Evam Traidharmam Anuprapana Gata Gatam Kama Lavante. Those who study the Vedas and drink soma juice, heavenly intoxication, seek in heavenly planets, worship me indirectly, purified of sinful reactions, they take birth on the pious heavenly planet of Indra, dancing girls, where they enjoy godly delights. When they have thus enjoyed vast heavenly sense pleasure and the results of their pious activities exalted, they return to this mortal planet again. Oh, their garlands fade, they get kicked out, they become ugly. Thus, those who seek sense enjoyment by adhering to the principles of the three Vedas achieve only repeated birth and death. Therefore, after finishing the results of pious activities, the karmis return to this planet in the form of rain, and they begin their life as grass and plants in an evolutionary process. And those grass and the grass and the plants get eaten by human beings. And here we are. Here I am. That's funny. Arasagya kakakuchuse yanadimba pole Rasaya kokila kaya Premam Ramukule. Ramananda Roy continued, those who are devoid of all transcendental mellows are like the crows that suck the juice from the bitter fruits of the nimber tree of knowledge, whereas those who enjoy mellows are like the cuckoos who eat the buds, the mango tree of love of God. It's really poetic. So you'll find in the Vedic literatures the metaphor of crows is used a lot, because crows are considered to be like the dirty creatures because they hang around the garbage dumps and stool and eat all the refuse. The speculative process of empiric philosophy is as bitter as the fruit of the nimba tree. Tasting this fruit is the business of crows. In other words, the philosophical process of realizing the absolute truth is the process taken up by crow-like men. But the cuckoo-like devotees, it's onomatopoetic because the bird is called the cuckoo, and they make the sound. Cuckoo! Like devotees, have very sweet voices with which to chant the holy name of the Lord and taste the sweet fruit of the mango tree of love of God. And such devotees relish sweet mellows with the Lord. A very appropriate metaphor. Abhanya Jnani Aspadaye Shushka Jnana Krishna Premamrita Panakari Bhagyavan. Ramananda Roy concluded, the unfortunate empiric philosophers, the empiric philosophers means those who judge things by their senses. Empiric means the things that you can perceive with your senses, or with extensions of the senses like scientific instruments. The unfortunate, seeing is believing. The unfortunate empiric philosophers taste the dry process of philosophical knowledge, whereas the devotees regularly drink the nectar of love of Krishna. Therefore, they are the most fortunate of all. Hey Mata Dvijana Krishna Katarase Richa Gita Radhane Haila Ratri Sheshe. In this way, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and Ramananda Roy passed the whole night relishing the melodies of Krishna Katha, topics about Krishna, while they were chanting, dancing, and crying. The night ended. Don he nija nija karye, kalila vihane, sundya kale rayasi milila haratine. The next morning, they both departed to perform their respective duties, but in the evening, Ramananda Roy returned to meet the Lord again. Ishtagoshti Krishna Katha Kahi Katakshana Prabhupada Dari Raya Kari Nivedana. That evening, after discussing the topics of Krishna for some time, Ramananda Roy caught hold of the lotus feet of the Lord and spoke as follows. Krishna Tattva Radha Tattva Prema Tattva Sara Rasa Tattva Lila Tattva Vividha Prakara. There is a variety of transcendental truths, the truth about Krishna, the truth about Radharani, the truth about their loving affairs, the truth about the transcendental humors, and the truth about the Lord's pastimes. So we're talking about tattva. Tattva means something that exists, the identity of something, the truth, like you have jiva tattva, what is category of jiva, that's us. You have Shakti tattva, the category of the Lord's energies. You have Maya tattva, the illusory energy of the Supreme Personality of Godhead. You have Vishnu Tattva, that means the Lord. There's various expansions, etc. Eta Tattva, not a Tattva. Eta Tattva and Lila Tattva. Eta Tattva Mora Chitte, Kaile Prakashana, Ramalki Vedayena, Padayala Narayana. You have manifested all these transcendental truths in my heart. This is exactly the way Narayana educated Lord Brahma. So in the purport, the heart of Brahma was enlightened by the Supreme Personality of Godhead. This is Vedic information given in the Shvetashvatara Upanishad 6:18. Yo Brahmanam Vidadati Purvam Yo Vaivedam Cha Prahinoti Tasmai Tamyadevam Atma Puri Prakasham Mukshurvai Sharanam Aham Prapadye. Because I desire liberation, let me surrender unto the Supreme Personality of Godhead, who first enlightened Lord Brahma in Vedic knowledge through Lord Brahma's heart. The Lord is the original source of all enlightenment and spiritual advancement. In this connection, one may also refer to Srimad Bhagavatam 2:9, 32, 35, 11:14:3, 12:4:40, and 12:13:19. Of course, we know in the beginning of creation, there was only Lord Brahma, and there was darkness, and Lord Brahma was on the lotus stem coming from the navel of the Supreme Personality of Godhead, and he didn't know what to do, and he dove down into the stem, and it was all darkness, and then he heard the words, tapa, 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 perform austerities. He began to perform austerities, did his sadhana, and then ultimately all the truths of Krishna, Krishna Tattva, Lila Tattva, Dhamma Tattva, all the different truths were revealed to him, and he spoke the Brahma Sangita. And so that's where we'll end today. So we went from 247 to 264 today. Okay, we're almost finished with this chapter. Okay, so we will stop sharing and we will take some questions after I unmute you, or you can write your questions if you are shy. You can write your questions in such a way that no one else will see your questions except for me. If you send them just to me, if you send them to everyone, everyone will see your questions, and if you don't mind that. So, who has some questions? Does anybody have any questions they'd like to ask? No. This is remarkable. I do not hear anyone or see anyone's hand being raised. All right. So going once. Ooh, and a little early. Going once, going twice. Last opportunity to ask questions. No.
Krishna, Gurudev. This is Rishikesh.
Oh, Rishikesh. Okay. Okay, Rishikesh, what's the question?
Yes, Gurudev. I just was wondering, all these demigods, like Indra, especially Indra, they seem to have a very good knowledge about, today I was reading Indra's prayer to Krishna after, he got learned the lesson of lifting the Golden Hill. And he
Yeah.
seemed to have such a good knowledge about Krishna's position, And I'm just wondering how come they behave like this? I mean, it's just so bewildering. On one hand, they have such a good knowledge. The prayers look so deep and so much of deep realization. On the other hand, their action is so abominable. It's just can't understand what kind of what really make them do like that. Yes.
Okay. I can explain that. Actually, we were explaining that in class because they have this upadi. Upadi means designation. They identify themselves in terms of their position. Like the name Indra is not his personal name, it's the name of the position, Indra, the person who's the administrative head of all the demigods, the boss. So there's this interesting statement that Srila Prabhupada gave. He said, if you go to Lanka, you'll become Ravan. So in the same way, when we actually take on a position, I was explaining this elaborately today in class, that for example, Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was very reluctant to speak to King Prataparudra, not because King Prataparudra was not a devotee, but because King Prataparudra had the upadi or the designation as king. And generally, someone who has this upadi or designation, they actually start to identify with their designation. And we have so many designations, and I was explaining this today. We are designated in terms of our nationality, where we were born, in terms of our family, like in terms of our gotra, isn't it? Like especially you're from Gujarat, so you have gotras and sub-gotras, and you have to marry someone in the same caste, right? And you
Yeah.
have subcaste. What's your subcaste? Do you know it?
I have no idea. All we know is that we are banyas. That's what we
You're
know.
banyas, business people,
Business people, yeah.
pagabanias. So, so anyway, but generally, I've seen with other people, like for a Brahminical caste in Gujarat, they're very concerned about their marriages, and not only the caste, the subcaste. And so these are designations. Our nationality, our religion, our even service as a devotee. For example, haven't we seen many people who have had the position of guru identify with their position of guru, even though they have so much knowledge of Krishna, and then they become bewildered.
Yeah.
They think
Very true, Gurudev.
guru means supreme controller. I'm the guru, or I'm the temple president. I mean, we've had more trouble with people in ISKCON who have position than with ordinary devotees.
Yes, Gurudev. That's true.
Because when people have a position, even if they were just really nice before they had the position, we see in so many devotees, very, very sincere devotees, they're really sweet devotees. As soon as you give them a position, it's like, oh my God, Ravana, not quite Ravana, but anyway, they become like the supreme controller. They think they're the supreme controller or abusive or whatever like that. So it's like that with Indra. Even though he has all that knowledge, his position covers his knowledge. That's called an upadi. Therefore, we have this statement from the Narada Pancharatra, which Prabhupada quoted many, many times. Sarvopadi vinir muktam tatvatvayana nirmalam rishikena rishikesha sevanam bhakti ruchate. That if one actually wants to be a devotee of Krishna, one has to be free of all the identifications with these upadis, these false identifications. And just consider oneself, Gopi Bharata Padakamo Dasa Dasana Dasa. So Indra, even though he has all that knowledge, he is not free from those upadis. He still thinks he's Indra. Therefore, when Krishna in his incarnation of Maharaj Prithu wants to perform all these horse sacrifices, Indra is so protective of his environment or of his position that he steals the horses. When Krishna wants to take away the Parijata flower from the heavenly planets and give it to his wife Satyabhama, Indra thinks, I'm the only one able to have
Yeah, he
that
did.
Parijata.
Strangely, he did it again. I mean, this happened after Govardhan pastime. So still he didn't learn the
Yes, he
lesson.
does it again and again. He
It's
does it
amazing.
again and again. Because until we give up our upadis, until we give up this false designation and identify ourselves simply as servant of Krishna, then we will make the same mistakes over and over again. Punak punas charvita charvananam. That's a fact. We'll keep making the same mistakes until we give up our false identifications with this world and with our position, particularly a position. It's described by Vishwanath Chakrabarti Thakur, and we've said this many times, that one of the causes of anarthas are the byproducts of bhakti, and that's the position that one gets in Krishna's service. One attains control, the dhanam, the janam, the sundarim. Kavita jagadisha kamaye, mama janmani janmani shve bhagavad bhakti. So here's another question. Let me answer some more questions before we come to the end. Prataparuja, because of his accepting the title and position of the king, indicated a type of contamination. I thought it was that Lord Chaitanya didn't want people to criticize him. There were two reasons. One is that Lord Chaitanya didn't want people to criticize him because of he's associating with a king. But number two is that Lord Chaitanya was considering that he even said, just by taking the name king, he's actually contaminated everything. Just one drop of poison in a pot of nectar contaminates everything. And the reason for that was that because generally, even if devotees are kings, they become contaminated with that Ishwara Bhava complex. Ishwara Bhava, actually, that's one of the Kshatriya complexes. They have this emotion of being the controller. And you even see with Arjuna, when Mahavishnu stole the children of that Brahmana in Dwarka, Arjuna really had this Ishwara Bhava controller complex. And Arjuna said, I am the great Arjuna. Krishna may be here, and Yudhisthira may be here, and Balaram may be here. Doesn't matter. I am here. I am Arjuna, and no one could steal the Brahmana's sons when I'm here. So this is from passion. So Lord Chaitanya Mahaprabhu wanted to set the example that one has to be very careful in associating with people who have a title like that. Chanaka Pandit says, don't trust politicians, people who have that title. It's very, very dangerous. I'm not saying don't trust your temple president, don't trust your guru. Because hopefully, that would be really bad. Oh, really bad. Don't trust your guru because he has a title. Don't trust the tribal president because she has a title or he has a title. So Krishna arranges for a devotee to have a position of some sort. Should they accept it? Yes. They should accept it if they're able to deal with the adulation that comes from that title. Because when you have a title, then you get parapet adoration and distinction, which means adulation. You get people to worship you. And Lord Chaitanya says, Nadanam, Najanam, Nasundarim, Kavicham, Dam, Java, Jagadisha, Kamaye. Then you automatically, you become a guru, and then you have Dhanam, people give you donations, Janam, followers, Sundarim, dancing girls. It's like I have one of my disciples, Champaka, who's the best dancer in ISKCON, better than all the, hope she's not listening, better than all the upstars in the heavenly planets. Anyway, that's funny. So Dhanam and Janam Sundarim. And so that's very dangerous. We had the best dancer who's one of my disciples. So we have to be sufficiently advanced, and the way to overcome this is to always be chanting Kirtaniya Sadahare, right? Because one has to be humble. How does one become humble? I'm turning around that particular verse. One becomes humble by always Kirtaniya Sadahare. Now, the general translation of that verse is one has to be more talented than tree, devoid of all sense of false prestige, respect, ready to offer all respect and service to others. In such a state of mind, one can chant the holy name of the Lord constantly. And I can turn that verse around that by chanting the name of the Lord constantly, one can become free from false prestige and ready to serve others constantly. Consider it manina, manadena, kirtaniya sadhari. So that's the only way. Just always remember Krishna's holy name. If one doesn't always remember Krishna's holy name, one's going to become proud in any position one's in. You always have to remember you're a servant, but to always remember you're a servant, to always remember remain purified, one has to take the remedial measure. The remedial measure to remain antiseptic or aseptic, to be more precise. Antiseptic means we make others free of contamination, is to always chant Krishna's name. Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare. As soon as the thought arises that I am the controller. So then if Krishna arranges, the question is, for a devotee to have a position of some sort, should they accept it if they can deal with it? If they can deal with it, they have to be honest enough personally to understand whether it's going to destroy their spiritual lives, or they'll become so proud sitting on a big seat and having everyone chant their glories. Or it's better not to accept it. What is more important? To remain Krishna conscious. And just like you have Srila Gauranga Babaji Maharaj showing this utmost humility, and to avoid people from approaching him, he would chant in a latrine. That means a place where people pass. Still, of course, they clean the latrine. And even when Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur approached him, he refused to accept him several times. He said, Lord Chaitanya said no. Until Bhakti Siddhanta Saraswati Thakur basically threatened to end his life unless Gauranga Babaji Maharaj accepted him. Similarly, we have Lokanath Goswami, who was one of Lord Chaitanya's associates, who took a vow never to accept any disciples. He actually took that vow. And that vow, of course, was later broken when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu chastised them and told them to accept Narottama Das Thakur as his disciple. Of course, if you have a disciple like Narottama Das Thakur, you really don't need to accept any other disciples. Otherwise, you better accept a whole bunch, thinking that maybe one of them will be half decent. So, anyways, that's just a joke. So, yeah, so that's his humility, because one is very scared. One should be scared of illusion, and therefore we always take shelter of Krishna's holy names. If Krishna wants a devotee to take a position, one should think, am I ready for it, without becoming proud, thinking I'm the controller. And if I am ready for it, I better just always be attentive and careful, and always just remember Krishna's name. Because another point is, as soon as you neglect your sadhana, then everything's finished. As soon as you neglect the chanting of the Lord's holy names, then you can be overcome by attachment, or with attachment, to your position. But you're not temple president. You're not a guru. I'm not a guru. You're simply a servant of the Lord, who maintains the gopis in Vrindavan. One always has to remember that. So just like I try to remember, I'm just a servant of Prabhupada. I'm serving Prabhupada. I don't think of anything else. If I thought of anything else, if I thought I am serving Radha and Krishna, I'm a gopi. God forbid. If I thought I'm a gopi, then their false pride arises. Because I'm a gopi and you are just a conditioned soul, you poor sucker. I'm a sannyasi gopi. Sannyasi gopi, that's pretty good. Sannyasi gopi. I've been in the movement 50 years, chanting Hare Krishna, very advanced. I'm a Prabhupada disciple. Whoo! That's another designation. I'm a Prabhupada disciple, and you become proud of everybody. You're proud of yourself, not proud of everybody else. So we have these natural situations that we can become proud of, and we have to really guard against it, or else we will tend to attempt to lord it over others. That our natural propensity is to try to lord it over other people. So, on that happy note, we're going to end now, and we'll see everybody tomorrow evening, or tomorrow morning, depending on where you are, or tomorrow midday, depending on where you are. All glories